Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey David, how you doing tonight?
Good. That was it was an interesting game. It was an interesting hockey game. The Oilers got out to a quick 4-0 lead. They won 5-2. After that 4-0 lead, the game was just kind of in the bag and lots of extra passing going on, lots of tricky passing from the Oilers, not a lot of scoring. But nonetheless, a big win. They're all big wins, and first game without Darnell Nurse, Bruce, and I thought they acquitted themselves pretty well without Darnell Nurse.
Mm-hmm.
The grade A chances were 18 to 10,
10.
18 to 10 for grade A shots for the Edmonton Oilers, and that's while holding the lead most of the game.
Right.
So it was a dominating performance by the Oilers without Darnell Nurse. That said, it's against the Chicago team, which has struggled this year and isn't a very good team.
They'd won four in a row coming into this game, but they've kind of done it with smoke and mirrors. I think they had, they won against the flow of play a couple times, and they got the what's called the dead cat bounce with the new coach taking
Yeah.
over. And a lot of teams, you see that a new guy comes in and they play inspired hockey for a while, and things seem to go well, and everybody's happy, and then reality inevitably
Kicks
overtakes
in.
them.
Yeah.
And tonight was a dose of reality, I think, from a Chicago perspective. It was a bit of a track meet, eh?
Yeah.
Like I
Well,
wasn't
well,
too happy with the third period because it was a track meet, and the Oilers could have really sort of put the hammer down, and they were happy to trade chances. And I don't really think that's the best game plan when you have a 3-goal lead. But
yeah,
anyway,
Bruce, it's the kind of game that if Gretzky was in, he'd score 5, 6 points. Like, you get out to that lead and he would just turn it on and keep scoring. But McDavid and Draisaitl, it's not really their DNA. It's not like they weren't trying to score, but they did get a bit fancy. And
yeah,
anyway,
Wayne would get all red in the face, and he would start to. Anytime we could see him from row 14 in the corner reds where I used to sit, and you could see even from that distance when his face got red, the other team was in big trouble.
why would his face get red?
I don't know, but
Excitement,
he'd get excited,
the
and
blood rising.
yeah, yeah, and he'd be pumping in the points, and it happened sometimes too in close games, but oftentimes you'd see it where the Oilers were, in the ascendant, and he was just killing them. Like he never stopped going for the. He was
He
like
was,
Pete Rose batting in the ninth inning with a 12-run lead. Every bit as tough to get out then as at any other time.
yeah,
That was Wayne just bringing the offense right to the end of the games.
he was the Dexter of point scoring, Bruce. Tonight's the night, and the blood would be rising. All right. What's your first good thing, Bruce?
Yeah, good things. Well, I like the penalty kill. I like the work of the penalty kill. Generally, they killed off all three Chicago power plays, and they scored not one but two shorthanded goals on the penalty kill. Two shorthanded goals in the same game. I mean, you talk about that's Gretzky era Oilers stuff right there. When they get multiple shorties in the same game, they used to do that once in a while, and it's always fun that it happened. Could well have been good old Murray Bannerman in the nets for Chicago tonight. But
Scoro.
yeah, Kyler Yamamoto got the first one, and that turned out to be the game winner. And it was off it. Chicago was trying to do one of those fancy breakout plays, and Colton Sceviour was kind of all over the guy trying to make the drop pass. And was it Taves? I think maybe it was Taves. Taves had a bit of a tough night, I think. If we were doing a Chicago podcast, Sir Jonathan Taves might have to have been a bad thing tonight. But anyway, Sceviour's got a piece of the drop pass with his skate and got a very good bounce and went right to Yamamoto between the circles. And Kyler surprised me and probably you by quickly gobbling up the puck and firing a rocket into the top corner. No questions asked. No, well, should I dangle it? Should I try and take it in? Nope, bam, in the net. And you got to like that. And that made it 3-0. It kind of opened the floodgates a little bit. If Chicago scores on that power play, there's a lot of game left, right? It's still the first period. Even if they don't score, it's only 2-0. And then finally, the hammer late in the third period, when the Oilers' own power play couldn't get her done on two chances, and in the second one, they shot themselves in the foot when Zach Hyman took an interference penalty. So that gave us 4-2 still. What, 5 minutes left when Hyman took that penalty or so? And here we go. Yeah, just over 5 minutes left. And Chicago has a chance on 4-4. They have a chance on the power play. Even they can score on one of those situations. It's 4-3, with time on the clock. And instead, Edmonton handily killed off most of it. And then a weak shoot-in by Sir Jonathan Toews was picked off by Evan Bouchard and promptly banked perfectly off the boards and into the neutral zone, where Leon was able to turn on the Jets and skate in on a clear breakaway. And I think he touched the puck once. He didn't give even Lankinen a whole lot of time to get set and bang, perfect wrist shot in off the post. You could hear it ding the post on the way into the back of the net. And that was the moment where we all knew that the Oilers were completely out of danger and these 2 points were in the bag. So credit to the penalty kill unit, which is having a year, David. I think now they're up to 3 goals for and 6 against through 17 games. I think that's correct. So they're only -3 overall,
Bruce,
whereas the power play is 21 for and 0 against.
I was going to remark on that. This power play is not giving up anything at the other end. Unlike, because in recent years they've given up a few too many on the power play has, and this is a different aspect. I mean, I just think it speaks to the overall excellence of that power play. That they're so in sync that good things happen when they're out there. Bruce, on the penalty kill, I'm going to segue to my good thing, which was my first good thing, which is Colton Sceviour. Didn't play a lot, but he led the team for forwards in power play time on ice, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was at 307, just ahead of Yamamoto. And
shorthanded time, yes.
Excuse me, shorthanded time, yeah. If, through the preseason, I was not sold on Colton Sceviour at all. I was wondering why he's on the team. Like, I didn't see anything. Right. And I think both you and Kurt were a little bit more positive about him. You were seeing some stuff.
Good stuff. I saw why coaches like him, why he keeps getting the job. That's what I saw, and I'm seeing more of it in the season. But carry on.
And so am I. And tonight it came through in spades. And I think it really highlights the issue with the fourth line on the Oilers is you've got to be strong defensively. Colton Sceviour is. He's a very smart. So this is what I've recognized now after having seen him more. He is a very smart defensive hockey player who works very hard. He's positionally sound. He doesn't give up anything in his own end, or he gives up very little. That's exactly, if nothing else, that's what you need from your fourth line players. You can't be giving up grade A shots constantly and leaking goals against. This is what we've seen way too much from the bottom line players. He's not going to do that. I think he's going to be back in the lineup again and again and again. He and Benson, actually, I don't know why we haven't seen more of that combination. I guess, they liked Perlini and Turris out of the preseason, and they've had the upper hand in terms of getting the chances and the ice time. But to my eye, Benson and Sceviour have been pretty. It's not close. They've been a lot better in terms of two-way play than Turris and Perlini. Sceviour's penalty killing alone could give him a job. He's not a physical player and a fast player. He's not a hitter like Archibald. He's not fast like Archibald. Bruce, he may be a smarter defensive player though than Josh Archibald. He may be more of he may be a more effective player in the end than Archibald. Even though Archibald did a lot of kind of spectacular things, and the hitting was very welcome.
Especially the hitting, yeah.
His defensive play was not always spot on. Like I would say Josh Archibald is an okay defensive hockey player. Sceviour may be better than that. We'll see over time. We'll be able to make up our minds. There's lots more games to come, but he's winning me over. And tonight was his best game, as Jack Michaels pointed out on Hockey Night in Canada. Congratulations to Jack for getting the call on a national game.
Yeah, that's the first, wasn't it?
I don't know, but it's well deserved. He's
Yeah.
been. I really like his work on television. I think he's so strong there. Anyway, Sceviour, he's in the lineup, and I think he's in the lineup. I want to stay. That might be too strong a thing, but I can't help but imagine that Dave Tippett was really impressed with that, and will be looking to him repeatedly. When you lead the team in PK ice time, that's a Dave Tippett kind of stat,
Yep.
and it's going to stick. It's very sticky, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, he was playing with Yamamoto on the on in the spot where Derek Ryan normally plays, and of course
Yeah.
Ryan is out with concussion-like symptoms. And based off the two games that's happened since, I'm expecting the Oilers won't be in any big hurry to rush Derek Ryan back in the lineup. Let's put it that way, because he wasn't playing that great before, and he was getting lit up for goals against. And Sceviour's drawn in, and this is where you want to make a comparison between Sceviour and Josh Archibald. Colton Sceviour's done something the last two games Josh Archibald has never done in his time in Edmonton. He played center,
Yeah, and
and he
one
filled in
face
at
off.
he filled in the middle between Benson and Turris, and he was 3 for 3 on the dot tonight. But defensively sound and reliable to my eye, and he doesn't give up a lot, and that's what you want on your fourth line first and foremost. Your
It's kind
fourth
of
line's never going to score much, so you better hope they don't give up a lot.
what Haas did last year, honestly, Bruce. Like he was
Mm-hmm.
really
Yep.
solid defensively.
Yes.
As a center, he was just a fine defensive center and didn't give up
Yes.
much and was okay on the PK. And
Mm.
I liked that. I didn't mind Gaetan Haas last year. I know
No,
you might want more, but now this year's team looks like the fourth line guys are going to get really limited ice time, especially if they're not going to be on the special teams. But Sceviour
Mhm.
can be on a special team. He can help on the PK. So, when Shore comes back, when Ryan comes back, suddenly you got four guys now who can kind of play center, play the wing. Ryan's a center and McLeod's a center, but you got the two other guys who can go back and forth. But it's going to allow, I think, Ryan and McLeod to be the centers, and you're going to have Sceviour and Shore. Sceviour's, I think, small sample size. I think he's a better penalty killer than Shore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's coming together a little bit here. They just needed to give this guy a chance, and we'll see what happens next. Bruce, what's your next good thing?
I'm going to triple out the play of the third line and credit all three guys on the third line. I thought they had an excellent game. Those being Ryan McLeod at center, between Warren Fogle and Zach Kassian. The wingers did what they're reputed to be able to do, which is skate fast, stir things up, take the body regularly, and create chances, if not necessarily finish chances. And both Fogle and Kassian had really good looks that they weren't able to cash. But you keep pounding away like they were tonight, the odd one's going to go in for sure. And each of them had 4 shots on net, and Kassian had 4 hits, and Fogle 2. And I thought they both played a really dynamic game. And Kassian, he even made a play in the defensive zone where he had a good defensive stick and picked off a pass and broke up a long Chicago cycle. And I almost fainted dead away in my couch. But it was an excellent play, and I made note that I have to credit Zach for that. That's what you want to see, and he was able to do it on that occasion. And in between was young Ryan McLeod, who on his second stint with the Oilers this season, after having been sent down fairly early in the season, he's a totally different player. He had a week camp, and he had a couple of week games to start the season, and he made himself kind of the easy choice to be the odd man out when everybody was healthy. Well, I can tell you right now that when both Devon Shore and Derek Ryan are ready to go, Ken Holland and Dave Tippett are going to have a headache deciding which of the other forwards, assuming all of them are healthy at once, because Ryan McLeod's the one they can send down without having to waive, but I don't think they're going to do it now. He's been too good. And he's playing third line. He's not like 4C, he's 3C. Tonight he got a beautiful goal. He showed
Wasn't
some
it?
really nice hands in close, and a nice pass from Fogle to set him up in the low slot. And uh, and he was patient. And it was one of those plays where the goalie had to move across, and the player coming at him was going the other way. And by just holding the puck and making one step, he just stepped right around the goalie and made the deposit, and made it look easy. So nice hands from McLeod, nice speed from McLeod. I mean, these are three big, fast players on one line. If they can get buzzing around like that on a regular basis, they're going to be a thorn in the opposition's side. They certainly were tonight.
I
So,
was going to remark on that, Bruce, that like the size of that group without
yeah,
Ryan, like Ryan's a good, like I'm still not negative about Ryan. I think he might come around here, but it's a different element when you have three great big guys and they're fast, and those guys are. And when I've liked Fogel's game. The results haven't been great. The process, he's made some defensive mistakes, same as Cassian, but man, he was going tonight, and you get McLeod buzzing in there. And I think McLeod, um, he holds the puck better than Ryan does. He's better with the puck, and they kind of need those two guys, so it works better. So I could see this as the third line. Again, we'll see how this is one game. They had a really good game. We'll see if they can replicate that, because consistency is for Cassian, it's been an ongoing issue. It looks like it is for Fogel, and it's probably going to be for McLeod. But you get three guys like that, and they if they can get it into their heads to play that kind of fast game where there's where they hold the puck in the offensive end and cycle it, they're going to be hard to stop. So then on the third line could be, well, I would go with Ryan, Sceviour, and Benson personally.
as
That's
a
a bit of
fourth
a
line.
yeah, excuse me, as a fourth line, a bit of a smaller group, but Benson and Sceviour seem to be smart defensively, and I think Ryan is too. So that might work in kind of a lesser minutes affair. Bruce, on the goal that I just wanted to point out one thing with
Yeah.
Cassian. He had three grade A shots on net. The last one, that pass from
Oh,
Draisaitl. Oh my God. What
oh,
a pass.
mhm.
What a pass. And like that was definitely a five alarm
Like,
shot, but five
boom,
belt save
right.
by the goalie too.
Great
Like,
save. I have to give Kevin Lankinen a lot of credit tonight. After the
yeah,
first period, and he was down 4-0, they're talking about should they pull him? Well, like they want to keep the other guy fresh, and he was great in the second period. He made several good stops on one timers. The Oilers several times didn't test him because they had to make the one extra fancy pass that didn't work. But when they did test him, he was excellent. And he held Chicago in the game right into the last 5 minutes of the third period. That he bounced back hard from a pretty tough opening 20. So credit to him.
my second good thing, you talked to him about the McLeod goal. Well, that play doesn't happen without a really, really sharp pass from the blue line. Puck comes around the boards, and who's there but our friend Philip Broberg, who
Mm-hmm.
puts it around the boards on
Yep.
purpose, sees the guy
Quickly.
down low, sees
Yep.
Fogel down there, and feeds him down low, and that's creates the momentum that leads to that goal. Philip Broberg has been playing against men since he was
17.
17 years old. In fact, he had just turned 17. His
Yeah.
birthday's in August, and I think, and he had just turned 17 when he was promoted to the Allsvenskan in
Yes.
his draft year. And then the
Mm-hmm.
2 years after that, he played in the Swedish Elite League, the top league in Sweden. So it's not like playing against people this age, against men,
Right.
kind of a shock to Philip Broberg. He's been working towards this for some time, and we got a really interesting report from Ira Cooper
Mm-hmm.
on Broberg in the AHL.
Right.
And let me just quickly deal with this. Why do we call him Broberg? I get asked this quite a lot. It's just out of courtesy, because that's how you pronounce his name in Sweden. Like that's his name essentially. That's how you pronounce it. And in the modern world, what we
Mm-hmm.
try to do, I think, is like we with the Russians, with the Czechs, with everybody else, we try to pronounce their names. And I don't know why there's an exception for the Swedes in terms of this particular aspect of pronunciation of Swedish names. So it's just as a courtesy to Philip Broberg. This is, we still are probably, I'm still probably butchering the accent and the
Yeah.
pronunciation. but it's my best attempt to pronounce his name like it's supposed to be pronounced.
Well, one day soon, someone's going to say, "Hey, Philip, how do you want us to pronounce your last name?" And he might say, "Well, Broberg is fine. That's easy for
He
you guys."
probably will.
And when he will, then we can
That's right. Like Elias
resolve the
Pettersson.
issue once and for all.
Elias
Anyway, yeah.
Peterson. He wants to be Elias Peterson instead of Elias Pettersson. I think this is why the Swedes they have their names mispronounced because they're very I think they're very
Phlegmatic
polite.
about it.
Yeah, they're not. They're just whatever. They're late. They're chill. Anyway, Bruce, he's been working towards this. And Ira Cooper's report from the AHL indicated that, and Ira's been watching it on AHL TV, and he noted that Broberg started out kind of iffy down there, just like he had looked in preseason here. There was a lot of iffy moments, and then suddenly, I don't know, about 3 or 4 games into the season, he took off and started to play with increasing confidence and playing better and better and better. And I don't know when Nurse comes back if he's going to stick in Edmonton right now. I doubt it. He probably could use more time in the AHL, but that was a very solid debut game, highlighted by the assist. He kept it simple. He didn't try to do too much. He got burnt once on kind of a 2-on-2. He and Ceci, with Keith with Duncan Kane, getting a shot off the post, where Broberg gave up too much gap and Ceci got beat on the pass. But it was a good partnership. Playing him that was a good move by the coaches to play him with a veteran like basically your best right shot D man right now is Cody Ceci on the Edmonton Oilers. Your best two-way right shot D man is Cody Ceci.
Best on the defensive side of the puck, and it's not particularly close.
That's right. So your most solid, dependable player defensively, and you put him with the rookie, and I thought that worked out very well. And it was he looked in the preseason. He was always getting flattened by hits, and that didn't happen in this game. He's learned some lessons there. He's moving the puck faster. He's just playing faster, and he's a good player. I think it's going to be fun to watch him develop.
Somebody tried to run him and it didn't happen. He was able to avoid the check, and the Chicago guy got the worst of it. The other thing that he did in his 14 and a half minutes that he played tonight, so decent amount, but kind of third pairing minutes, he drew a penalty.
That's right.
So he got a point. He drew a penalty that led to a power play goal. He had a couple of iffy moments defensively, but geez, a couple, you're more than willing to accept that. If we're here thinking that Broberg should be able to handle Patrick Kane one-on-one in his first game, maybe it's a little bit wishful thinking, and Kane's made a lot more experienced players than him look silly at times, and that wasn't even like a major breakdown. It was a really nicely executed play by Chicago, and Kane from not, it wasn't like it was a 10-bell chance because he wasn't right in front from an angle. He tried to pick the corner and hit the post. It certainly came close, but that was Broberg's toughest moment in the game, and it wasn't like he stood out saying, "Oh, that's a blunder." It was nothing like that. It was just the flow of play, and Patrick Kane, go figure, found some open ice and was able to create a dangerous chance out of it with 2-on-2.
It's going to happen.
It is going.
It's been known. It has been known to happen, Bruce.
That's indeed.
What's your bad thing?
Well, much as I just praised Ryan McLeod, the 4-2 goal, man, oh man. They got a 4-1 lead. They got a power play in the third period. The power play does nothing. Like, I wasn't happy with that power play at all. Like, the big guys did nothing except for turn the puck over and chase it down in their own end 2 or 3 times. But then they went off, and the coach rewarded the third line deservedly with the last 30 seconds or 40 seconds of the PP. And out they came, and they kept doing what they've been doing before, cycling and keeping the pressure on. But with about 5 seconds to go in the power play, the puck comes to Ryan McLeod, and you can hear Stuart Skinner at the other end of the ice doing the universal signal, whack, 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 which tells the players at the far end, penalty clock is counting down. Be aware there's a guy coming out of the box. And McLeod had the puck deep in the zone. Evan Bouchard was at center point, but isolated there. and McLeod tried to pass the puck back to McLeod or to Bouchard. Normally it'd be an okay play, but in that situation with the guy emerging from the box and with a 3-goal lead, passing the puck backwards is not a good idea. What you really want to do more than anything, and when the goalie's doing the stick whack thing, is just get it deep into the corner and make sure that you've got either you're changed up, you've got fresh troops, you got everything where you want. And he goes back to the point, and Alex DeBrincat gets a piece of the pass. And so to me, that's the turnover right there. The puck went to Bouchard. He couldn't really handle the bouncing puck. And DeBrincat was all over him. And next thing you know, not only is he breaking away with the puck, but the guy out of the penalty box is ahead of him. And now it's a 2-on-0, and they execute perfectly. And now instead of 4-1 game with 11 minutes left, and they've not only wasted the power play, but they've blown it at the end, given Chicago a 2-on-0 breakaway with a 3-goal lead. That's a horrendous mistake. And it's young players, and both McLeod and Bouchard are young players, and hopefully they'll learn from that. I can guarantee you they will be looking at some videotape or whatever you call the digital version video anyway of that sequence, and being given a little bit of friendly advice as to how they might have handled it different.
I think the coaches will be more upset with McLeod than with Bouchard.
Bouchard was hung out to dry by that pass, in my opinion.
My bad thing was the first 5 minutes of the game, Bruce, and the Oilers just came out so loose. Chicago was constantly outnumbering them on the attack, and it amounted to 2 grade A shots from the slot from Patrick Kane. And Stuart Skinner fought off both of those shots. He did very well to make both of those saves. They were hard saves, and the Oilers were just so loosey goosey. And then all of a sudden, boom! They scored. Right? They got a nice goal. So that seemed to change everything after that. The Oilers dominated the game, but those first 5 minutes were not good. And it was good that Stuart Skinner was in net, because, man, he just there alone, he earned a good mark on the game grades, because he helped the team win the game.
Yep.
Because of that early play. It's a different game. Chicago gets out 1-0. It's a different game, and that's what the Oilers deserved almost with the way they were playing, because it wasn't just the 2 scoring plays. It was just repeatedly. It seemed like there was 5 Chicago players and 4 Oilers defenders, or there was 4 and 3 Chicago to Oilers.
3 against 2. There was a lot of man. Chicago was really loosey-goosey and jumping up, and the Oilers were a little bit slack on the coverage. I found the early part of the third period was more of the same. With the 3-goal lead, I was kind of shaking my head saying, this is not exactly locking it down there, fellas. But anyway, they got the job done. But Skinner was big early, and he had another solid game. Like, he is going to get a good grade because he played well.
He looks good in the nets, Bruce. He looks like he just moves around well. His positioning is really strong. Mm-hmm. He's had some good training, is what I would suggest. Someone's trained him. Well, I guess down the farm they have, what is his name, Sylvain Rodriguez?
Yeah. Olivier Rodriguez's dad. That must be an interesting dynamic in the goalie drills when the coach is a dad. I guess all the players would have grown up with that at some point or other.
Yeah, they've got all put up with
dad. One of the players. But anyway, they've got a very promising looking netminder there in Stuart Skinner, I got to say. And fingers crossed. It's been so long since the Oilers developed.
Well, since Dubnyk, right?
Well, yeah, you could say Brossois, that they developed. They got him in a trade. They didn't draft him. They got him in a trade, and they actually, they did eventually develop into an NHLer. And before that, it was Dubnyk, and before that, it was Grant Fuhr, near as I could tell. Unless you want to say
a gap there.
Bill Ranford, who came from Boston when he was NHL ready.
No.
So I would say it was Grant Fuhr that they drafted, and he became. It's the Oilers' record of drafting goalies is horrendous.
Are you overlooking Steve Passmore?
I am overlooking Steve Passmore.
I can't blame you. All right. Sorry, it's just a cheap shot at Steve Passmore. Sorry, Steve Passmore. Bruce, what's your number?
My number is 10. And that is the number of times in the first 17 games that the Oilers have scored at least 5 goals in a game. 5 goals will win you games in the NHL, and in fact, it won all 10 of those games. They're 10-0 in games which they scored 5 or more goals. And so that's very nice offensive production. In fact, they've only had one game all year where they didn't score 2 goals. And even in that game, they were credited with 2 because they won 2-1 in the shootout in the last game. That was the first time that Hellebuck held the Oilers. Was the first time they've been held below 2 goals in a regular hockey game all year. So the consistency of the offense, getting a couple of goals every night, and getting 5 or more in over half of their games. I mean, that's if they can possibly keep up scoring at that rate that often, they're just cruising into the playoffs.
Very nice. Very nice.
Mm.
Helps the old
Well,
goal differential for the team.
well, they won those 10 games with the 5 goals, and the other game they won 3 low-scoring games: 2-1 over Vancouver, 2-1 in the shootout over Winnipeg, and 3-2 in the shootout against Vancouver. So they got a few points here and there from the games they were held. Uh, their offense was not overpowering, and then many nights it is, and they can they're in great shape. So it's nice to have such a depth of offense. Like, I mean, 5 goals, that's a nice number. Don't they give away a pizza when the team scores 5? I think that's the magic number for Japanese Village giveaway or something that they do on the radio. That
One
they ought to
pizza.
score 5, everybody gets free food.
Um, Bruce, my number is we haven't mentioned this because we knew it was coming up in my numbers here, but that shift, there was an astonishing shift by the Oilers in the second period. Absolutely, utterly astonishing, and it was a joy to watch the whole thing unfold. For some Oiler fans, it would bring to mind a famous shift where the Oilers were hemmed in their own zone with Jason Strudwick and Taylor Turney on the ice, which
Yep.
um, I'm not sure which was a longer time in the O zone or which shift was longer. Someone else is going to have to get at that. But
This
this
one.
was a heck of a long shift. So here's the numbers, Bruce, involved in this shift.
Okay.
In terms of Edmonton entering the Chicago zone and keeping it in there, 190 seconds.
Oh,
190 seconds. 18 Oilers were on the ice during those 190 seconds.
the whole team.
The whole team was out there. Russell and Barry just were out there at the very start. They came out again at the end of the shift
Yeah,
before those players were able to get off the ice, but the puck had come out by then, and Russell and Barry were out again. But all 6 defensemen, all 12 forwards, they didn't change goalies. Was the only thing they didn't
boy.
do. Uh,
Hard to do
during,
that on the fly, especially in the
during
second period. It's a long change for the goalie.
yeah, they might have done it otherwise. So it's by my count, and I only counted it once, so maybe I'm off by one or two, but there was 46 completed passes. And
Oh,
and we've had some shifts, some long shifts in the last couple years, and I'm pretty sure that we haven't gotten past 30 passes, like 30,
right,
30, 32.
right around there.
This
Yeah.
this one was 46 passes. Not only that, there was 7 battles won where the Oilers regained the puck from Chicago. Seven
Mm.
times Chicago had it, and the Oilers either from a turnover or just battling them, they got it. There was 9 shots at net. 2 of those were grade A shots. 2 of the shots, I think it was Cassian early on, if I'm not mistaken, and then one of the grade A shots was an incredible Bouchard riff from a McDavid cross ice dart that Bouchard put off the crossbar.
Mhm.
So um, that was a lot of fun. Not if you're Chicago, not if you're Caleb Jones and was it Connor Murphy, but it was a
Yes.
lot of fun for Oiler fans.
4 minutes and 55 seconds their shifts were, according to Hockey Night in Canada, and I haven't verified, but surely they got that right. And they were saying all along that he was up over 4 minutes. The famous slash infamous shift of Strudwick and Chorney in Detroit was 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and almost all of it in Edmonton territory. A couple times they got it out to center, and it came right back in. And of course, Same thing. Anytime one of those records gets set, I can almost guarantee you it's going to be in the second period, where the
Yeah.
defenders have to make the long change and the opponents get to make the short change on the attack because they come over the boards and they're right in the zone already. And so they can really heap the pressure on. They can change up and make fresh troops without having to skate past center to bring on the new guy. They can just replace right at the blue line. So they can really bring on the stormtroopers, and Edmonton did in tonight's situation. And it did indeed remind me of that dominance of Detroit versus the Strudwick Charney pairing. I watched that shift a number of times. I'm fascinated by it. I said, how does it work with these long changes versus the short changes? And Detroit did everything perfectly, basically. And the poor fellows couldn't get off. They didn't do a lot wrong.
And
They
so
just
did the
couldn't get it
Oilers.
out. And tonight it was the other way around. I frankly a little disappointed they weren't able to score off of it, but they sure were cycling that puck around. And as you say, they won a lot of battles. And at a certain point, Chicago had lactic acid issues that they weren't going to win any battles. And they did well to finally get the thing out of there and get those guys off the ice. 4 minutes and 55 seconds.
After about 90 seconds, they must have been dying. So just imagine. And then finally, I was just waiting, like, when's McDavid getting on this? Can he get out there? And finally
Uh-huh.
he did.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and he was just dancing out there, like looking for the plays, and he set up Bouchard. That should have been a goal. Like, I don't know how Evan Bouchard missed that shot. It was pretty much a wide open net, and it was just rang it off the crossbar. But that was astonishing.
Should have done
Bruce,
what Tyson Barrie did when he had the wide open net, hammer it right into the middle of the net. Done
exactly.
deal.
That was a nice goal by Tyson Barrie, who's been playing really strong hockey, by the
It
way.
was, yeah.
Tyson Barrie in his last 5 games, 6 games, has really turned it around. Although he was one of the culprits early in the game, he did his famous pinch up the ice, and it caused a pinch it. Whenever he's pinching too much, he always gets himself in trouble. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Bruce, they play what, Tuesday? Is that the next game?
Tuesday and Wednesday, they play back-to-back on the road, and they play Dallas and Arizona on consecutive nights. And
Okay.
then they go on to Vegas next Saturday, week from tonight. So it's a 3-game roadie, but rather than every other day, there's a back-to-back and then a couple days off, and then a final game, and then they get 3 more days off after that. So it's by the end of next week, they'll be up to game number 20, and they'll have played 10 home, 10 away. So they're just on.
Well, they're looking for real, Bruce. I remember what Bob McKenzie of TSN always used to say, that he always used to wait till American Thanksgiving to kind of judge the teams and to get a real solid take on where the teams are. Well, we're very close to that. I think is it this
Next
week?
week. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Fourth
Oilers are looking pretty
Thursday in
good.
November.
Yeah. All right, Bruce. Well, let's leave it there for tonight. Thanks for talking.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.